For the hype built around Bloodborne thanks to the cult following of the Souls games, From Software didn't have an easy task in creating something that meets expectations. The end result is a challenging, terrifying and incredibly fun game that's well worth your attention, despite a few minor faults.
Well, you've come to the right place. Yharnam is the home of blood ministration. You need only unravel its mystery. But where's an outsider like yourself to begin? Easy, with a bit of Yharnam blood of your own.
Bloodborne takes you into the gothic town of Yharnam, where the citizens have been transformed into grotesque monsters by a mysterious curse. That's about all the story you get. You're a hunter and you have to go and kill said beasties. This game follows the trend set by its predecessors, offering little in the way of dramatic plotline, and focusing more heavily on exploration and lore. Throughout your travels, you'll find a number of NPCs, some of whom can actually tug on your heartstrings, and some of whom are just downright insane.
Stuck outside on a night of the hunt. Oh, you poor, poor thing.
Unfortunately, the town is inhabited by more than just a few unfriendly NPCs. Yharnam is home to a huge variety of nightmarish creatures, all hell-bent on killing you. You have a few conventional enemy types, such as your werewolves and your giant rats, but then there are some more unique beasts, but all are brilliantly designed and showcase the power of the PS4. Alongside these, Bloodborne also has a number of stylish bosses to boot. These put a nice variation on the standard combat techniques, and all look great. All of these elements come together to create a far more atmospheric experience than the past Souls games, and manages to toe the line between action RPG and survival horror, borrowing generously from each and mixing it into one unique bag. Rather than making your way through an area to an obvious goal, this game feels much more like a masterclass in survival. In order to survive in a cursed town, you're going to need some weapons. Melee combat in this game is drastically faster and more intense than in the Souls games, thanks to the removal of the shields. No longer can you run through an area with your block up, or strafe around an enemy for a while to get the feel of his attacks. Combat is all about staying on the move, being mobile and staying on the offensive. Also missing this time around are spells, replaced here by firearms such as a pistol or a blunderbuss. These are more focused on staggering an enemy than causing damage. Much more focus is put on the melee aspect of a fight. The depth of this goes far deeper than light and heavy attacks though. Sure, you have these, as well as the one-handed and two-handed weapon stances, but more than that, melee weapons in Bloodborne have multiple forms. For example, a short axe extends into a poleaxe, a cane transforms into a long-range whip. These alterations open up new movesets and change the way you fight, offering far more depth in the combat. This depth is needed, particularly in the boss fights. Mobility is essential and attention is needed at every moment. This is anything but your average button masher. Bosses change mid-fight, forcing you to alter your tactics and playstyle accordingly. Despite the punishing difficulty, this always feels fun and never unfair, even when you're taking on a far larger group of enemies than you'd expect. You have to be prepared to die, a lot. Get used to the words, "you died," as you'll be reminded of it constantly. And it's here that the first major issue comes into play. Whenever you die or want to travel back to the hub world to level up your character or buy new items, you'll be forced to wait through an excruciatingly long load screen, up to 40 seconds long, and that's no exaggeration. This might not seem like that big of a problem, and I suppose in the long run it isn't, but when you factor in the fact that there's no travel between the checkpoints and you have to go back to the hub world to go back to a separate checkpoint, it does eventually become more annoying than losing your accumulated souls, or blood echoes here. This is one feature that's carried over. As you kill enemies, you gather blood echoes, souls, which you can take back to the hub world to level up your character. It's a great progression system that really allows you to feel your character getting stronger as you go on, if it ain't broke, right? The only difference here is that the stats have been more streamlined. Basic stats like strength, vitality and endurance have remained, some have changed to become clearer, dexterity is now skill for example, and some of the more obscure or useless ones have been removed altogether, i.e. luck, resistance, etc, etc. As before, if you die, you lose your blood echoes and respawn at the last checkpoint you crossed. If you make it back to your bloodstain, your lost echoes can be reclaimed. If you die on the way there, they're gone forever. Except this time, your echoes can be picked up by a nearby enemy. You see that guy over there with the glowy eyes? He's got him. Go kill him to get him back. Multiplayer returns in Bloodborne, working much the same as it always has. Players leave messages, spirits of other players can be seen running around, and games can be joined and invaded to help or hinder the host, depending on how nice you're feeling. Summoning requires insight, a resource gained by encountering a boss for the first time, killing a boss, successfully killing a boss in someone else's world, or by using a consumable item. This may have seemed like a good idea at the time, but putting a price on summoning help seems a little unfair to me. Denying people the help they need due to a lack of something seems a little bit harsh. For the most part, multiplayer sessions seem to work quite well. I've never yet had a disconnection from a host, so that's good. There's a little drop in the frame rate now and again, although that happens sometimes when just running around, so I'm not entirely sure whether or not multiplayer affects it. Fortunately, the game runs smoothly during combat, which is what's most important. Bloodborne follows in the footsteps of its predecessors, mixing up the bag enough to give a fresh experience, whilst keeping everything that we know and love. This is a fun and at times terrifying experience. If you didn't like the Souls games, Bloodborne probably won't turn you, but if, like me, you did, then this should definitely be on your essentials list.